all. Yeah. Now, in verse 11, yeah. Chapter 2 of James. For he that said, do not commit adultery, said also, do not kill. Now, if thou commit no adultery, yet if thou kill, thou art become a transgressor of the law. So speak ye, and so do as they that shall be judged by the law of liberty. Yes. Now, I want to mention, okay, there's no study room today because the library is closed. And the thought was I'd go to the senior center and quite possibly the rent check would happen today and I'd probably walk back over here, spend some time here at the emergency room because I'm wanting to pay the rent. Yes. Now there is this law of liberty where I'm wanting custody of my 5 sons. Yes. And I am wanting to speak to Marilyn about what she wants to do in her personal life. Yep. Now the thought was I'd go to the senior center. Yes. I'd walk back over here. I'd spend 2 or 3 hours working on these various screen prints that I have that I haven't been able to really talk about. Something about racketeering, treason. Yeah. And then what I'd do is I'd probably make 10 or 15 videos during the course of the afternoon. Then I'd probably have to walk someplace else to be able to upload them to the YouTube channel, the 414. Yes. But it would sure be nice if somebody enforced the laws today. Yes. Now I'm wanting my sons, and I'm wanting to know exactly how much fluoride you've been putting in the water. Yes. Now this U.S. Code Title 18, the federal laws. Yes. You know, if you've been adding more than what the law requires for fluoridation of the water supply so as to keep it healthy, yes, there's a possibility of a little lawsuit. So why don't you get me all the purchases of every municipality of all the fluoridation products? Now, quite often, fluoride is the byproduct of the aluminum industry. Yeah. Known as coke. Yeah. And my thought is for every aluminum producer of the world that's been selling the byproduct, yes, yes, yes. Now there's Alcoa. Why do we look at the electricity usage of all aluminum producers? And then exactly what they've been selling as the result of the manufacturing of aluminum. Now there were some cows I was concerned about yesterday. Yeah. That happen to be producing milk at 87.8% water. Yes, it is. Yes. And you're one of these nations that likes the idea of manufacturing green electricity? Yeah. You know, increasing the fresh water supply could increase the amount of water available to cows. Yeah. You should consider that, Taiwan. Now, there's this other idea that the United States is going to refuse to enforce the laws. Yeah. I would really like it if you did, because I would rather be residing in a 5-star hotel room. Yes, speaking to attorneys. Now, those that are attorneys, yes, there's what's known as layering. It's the process of moving the money through the financial system in order to further conceal the connection between the money and the crime. Yes. I had actually heard about this while I was a financial consultant. You know, the idea that banks are going to support the retardation of the population. Yeah. They're going to pay to cover up the legal crimes of those in office. Why don't you get me the bank accounts again? Of every sheriff in every county of the United States. Under Sheriff Ron Peregrine. Now, this idea of layering the money so as to conceal the amount of money that you have. Money laundering fits into this whole idea of what is known as racketeering. Yes, it does. Now, somebody's been paying a large amount of money, and my uncle, yes, said I had to cry uncle. I had to call Uncle Wayne because he's the senior of the family. Yeah. You know, when I had my sons, I thought that I was the senior at the time of their conception. Yes. And my thought is that somebody's been layering large amounts of money so as to conceal, yes, the fluoridization and the electrocution of the population. Pooh. Now, it's probably one of those where I'm going to have to walk back over here this afternoon. Yeah. spend 2 or 3 hours, and then I'll have to go out later on this afternoon, this evening. Yes. Or I could wait until tomorrow until the library opens again. Now, why don't you get me the bank accounts of every oath of office and all of those in law enforcement? Yes. FBI? For the Federal Bureau of Investigation to refuse to enforce the civil rights of American citizens because you just didn't want to arrest them, you have the personal liability. Pooh. Now, what if I sued you? Poop. I'm wanting to reduce the number of employees that are actual employees of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. I think we need approximately 20% of the FBI, and the other 80% can find jobs someplace else. Then I emailed the EPA. Why don't you get me the incentives for green technology? I thought we could reduce the number of employees of the EPA by 80%. I could sue you for having any knowledge of fraud, forgery, or obstructions of justice because the Environmental Protection Agency did not want to enforce the actual rights of citizens to compete for the incentives of the federal government. In fact, go through the incentives of the United States of America. For the Environmental Protection Agency to have any knowledge of the taking of, the stealing of electricity so that you could be on them, or the fluoridation of the water supply so you can make them retarded. Yes. I think the EPA is personally liable as a protection agency of the United States federal government. Why don't you give me the outlets of the FBI, of those in the EPA? And then there's NOAA. This idea of putting windmills in the ocean, yeah, don't really like it, even though the wind blows. When you have that much salt water available to produce approximately 10 times the amount of electricity as a windmill in the ocean, yes, I would think that wherever there's a windmill in the ocean, yeah, it should eventually be replaced with a steam generator. Could those in the military find the locations where you're actually it's not transmitting, you're generating electricity from a windmill in water? Yes. There's some sort of cable that goes to these different locations. Yeah. I mean, how do you get the electricity from one of these windmills in the ocean? Must be some undersea cables. Yes, there is. There's no leaking electricity in the ocean, is there? Yeah. Now, I know that you thought that the international, just get me the actual, why, when you have the world's fastest semiconductor chip, yes, it use it uses considerable less battery power to run a laptop. It does. It uses less broadband, to actually be able to surf the internet. Why don't we do an evaluation of your silicon chips? Yes, and then my desalinated salt chip. Yes, and let's look at the actual electricity usage for desktops. Yes, if they were made of desalinated salt chips, yeah, it uses a less electricity. It uses less broadband. Yes, and it is much more efficient on the world today. I just want to know, Fishy, are you leaking any electricity from any location that is generating electricity? And then, are there any undersea cables that happen to have T3? Oh, T1. Oh, fiber optics. Ooh. I made mention that I wanted to replace most of the undersea cables with a new kind. Which I don't know if you can make fiber optics out of desalinated salt. I'm glad that you asked me that. My thought was we should still keep using. Why don't we call the fiber optic manufacturers of all? Oh, Cisco. Oh, Chambers. How are you today? I'm going to need to know the infrastructure of the world's internet. And is there any roaming in the infrastructure? Yes. Now, if I were to make fiber optics, instead of out of sand, I was to make it out of salt. Poop. Is there any way that I could increase the actual speed of the internet that is being piped through? Yes. Now there's Warren. How's your? Oh, look at you. It's Paul. Could you give me the actual railroad tracks of those that are multi-billionaires? Yes. That they just couldn't find an investment for that war. chest. Now I'm going to need to know the T3 lines, every fiber optic line of the United States of America, exactly what the process is for manufacturing fiber optics. There's a possibility, yes, that as a competitor for the infrastructure of the world's internet usage, that I could be a multi-trillionaire, trillionaire, trillionaire. Just get me the undersea cables and the amount of electricity. Now, I'm wanting to sue those that are employees of the government.